Hello and welcome to the Giraffe Social Media Podcast. It's what social media managers are talking about. I'm Kaitlin McKenzie, and today I'm joined by some brilliant members of the Giraffe team. We've got Senior Social Media Manager Nicole.
Hello.
Social Media Manager Laura.
Hi.
And Social Media Assistant Chloe.
Hello.
So, in today's January Newsfeed, we're going to be chatting about some of the major things that happened on social last month, including platform updates, unexpected stock market crossovers, and the return of a very exciting platform. But that's all to come. So before we get started, guys, it's time for our team question. What was your personal Newsfeed highlight of January? Laura, why don't you get us started?
So I think the major event for me in January was that I moved into my own flat, so out of my mum's home to my own home, which is very exciting.
Amazing.
Very settled, it's very cozy. Yes, now I'm just living the dream solo during a global pandemic, but
No, that's awesome. That's such an achievement. You should be so proud of yourself.
thank you.
Definitely. Chloe, what was your highlight?
Yeah, look, that's a tough act to follow. I didn't manage to buy a new flat, but I did buy a new iPhone, which I feel like is a bit of a flex.
Yes.
I have had the 10s for ages, which I feel like is really old, but is only like a model old. So now I have the 12 and just loving the crisp camera quality. I really couldn't ask for much more.
That's amazing. What is there any other like cool features to it? Because I assume whenever they come out, I'm like, I want it, but you need to sell it to us.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there is. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. All I look for in a new iPhone is just a better camera, and so far so good. A friend of mine works at Apple, and she I was gonna get the 11, and she upsold me the 12. So if you want the full list of specs, hit her up because she sold me.
How does it compare to using like a professional camera? Because I know you do a lot of content creation. So
Yeah.
does it measure up?
I mean, I usually take my content photos on my camera, and I didn't toss it, but now I've traded it in for the iPhone, and it's clearly not a DSLR, but it is much better than what my last iPhone was compared to my camera. So yeah.
Awesome. My highlight is super random, but it's just something funny and memorable that happened, and I know I posted it on my personal socials and you guys loved it. So here goes. My highlight was discovering that my cat is apparently really adventurous. So obviously we're locked down, don't have a dog, sad times, but we do have a little cat. And one morning I went out to go for a walk up this hill behind our house, and we just had this little bell ringing, and she followed us the entire way, down streets, through a forest, through paths. Whenever she got close to you, you could see on her face this is a huge mistake, why am I here? And occasionally a big dog would run past, or a car would come and she would scurry and hide. But it was just the cutest thing ever. But I'm a little bit frightened that I'll take her on a grand adventure and she'll be whoop, out of here. So very cute, but probably won't be strapping her to my paddleboard anytime soon. But that was a fun little highlight.
That is really cute.
How about you, Nicole?
Firstly, that is adorable, and I wish my cat would come out with me on walks. For me, it's a little soppy, but it's probably the return of the Zoom calls. With another lockdown, I've sort of had a couple more group calls and Zoom calls with people, which has actually been quite nice. Lockdown hasn't felt too different because I think we were kind of used to it anyway, working from home. But with this one, I think it's been nice to put those in the calendar again. So I'll say that.
That's really nice. It's also kind of freaking me out that we've got nostalgia for Zoom calls.
That's so true.
That's how deep in it we are.
Yeah.
Have you seen the TikToks of, when it's a voiceover and it's this or that, and it's there's one for the 3 lockdowns, but it's relationship edition. It's who treat you better, and you're lockdown 1, and then it's who did you have the most fun with? It's funny that that's the thing.
goodness, I hope like we're at the max now. Like that's all of the material they get to use in those videos.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, I'm going to get us started with like our first little news piece. So guys, does the word GameStop mean anything to you? Have you heard it?
I have heard this.
I have heard this, but it's still over my head. Anything investment, stock related.
Sure.
Yeah, me too.
Well, I'm going to do my very best as a non-stock person, financial buff, to kind of explain it. I've seen some really cool analogies on the internet, so I'm going to try and relay it. But for those who aren't across this, basically members of a Reddit thread called Wall Street Bets decided to pile in on GameStop stocks and start buying them up en masse. And this has led to Wall Street themselves and like I think a $13 billion valued hedge fund is now in crisis because of the activity of a Reddit thread, which is fascinating, I think, in the first place. But let me kind of explain how it's happened. So GameStop is a little bit like Game, I think, like the UK version of Game. I know there's different other kind of versions. But so these big hedge funds decided that GameStop was going to go out of business. They decided that it wasn't worth very much. So they decided to do this thing called short selling, which is effectively where you borrow a stock from somebody and then hope that the value of it changes, then you can keep the profit and just give the stock back effectively. So a good way of explaining this was, so say you borrowed like a jumper from me because you thought that jumper was going to go down in the sale. So you then you borrowed my jumper, you returned it to ASOS, you got the full value of it because you knew it was going to go down in the sale next week. And then you could buy it back, give it back to me, and you get to keep the money difference because you sold it at a discounted price. So that would be a great system. But what's happened is somebody has been watching you from the sideline and been like, that's a bit sus. And they have seen that you've borrowed these coats and they've gone and bought up all the coats available on ASOS. So now the value of that coat that you were going to buy back from ASOS is like super high. And you still owe me my coat. So I've realised I think I've changed it from a jumper to a coat, but you're with me, a garment. Yeah, so you still owe me it, so you still need to give it back to me, so you still need to buy it back, but it's now worth like 10 times as much. So you're going to make a huge loss. And this wouldn't be so much of an issue if you've been borrowing coats from everybody. Like you've got hundreds of thousands of coats that you now need to buy back at like a major price. So I think I've got the numbers here in front of me. So it's called like a short squeeze. There's a buzzword that I don't fully understand, but so the shares were worth like $17 at the start of the year, and then once this started happening, they went to almost $150 in like less than a week. Then Elon Musk got involved. He tweeted about it. Even more people piled in. So he has 42 million followers. So everybody kind of interested in this got involved, bought themselves some GameStop shares as well. There's been other brands as well, so like AMC, Blockbuster, all these like nostalgic companies people are just like buying en masse because Wall Street themselves have been like, oh, don't see any value there. But it's weird how much like nostalgia is mixed into this. But basically, I think it's absolutely fascinating that this real world stuff, businesses are now worth heaps more. Hedge funds are going out of business just because of a Reddit thread. And I think it's viral, stuff going viral, but in like a whole new way. I don't know how cohesive my explanation of the issue of how it works was, but effectively hedge funds and stuff are now completely going out of business because they owe so much money and they can't afford to pay back all of those coats that they borrowed. So guys, would you ever like do investing off something you saw on social media? Is this like super random to you guys too?
It's so crazy, isn't it? Like you said, just from a Reddit thread, it sort of became this huge thing. I think there's the added drama of the app as well. I think it's called Robinhood. It's like this app where it makes it easy for people to invest and buy stocks. But then they like capped it once they realized what people were doing. And then they were saying, how is that fair? That you can't let, us normal people get involved and the Wall Street guys do their thing. So I guess that's sort of more to do with censorship and their control, but it's just crazy all round. I don't understand stocks, so I wouldn't be too scared to do it, but I know people who like never knew anything about that were just following instructions on a Reddit thread, and like they changed like real things, like, you know, there's real stuff
For
there.
sure. And made like real money. I've seen people making crazy figures. Like I logged into Twitter on whatever day it sort of happened, I can't remember now, last week, and my whole timeline was just full of like financial jargon and like GameStop, Elon Musk, GameStonk I think was the hashtag, but then also like real life stories of someone like, I put all my money into it, now I can pay all my medical bills and stuff. And then the other sort of reaction to it is like Wall Street are panicking and they're saying like, now you've learnt the rules to the game, the rules aren't fair. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone's beating us at the game, which isn't fair because we're the ones that made the game. Again, that is not a very good paraphrasing of the very witty tweets that I've seen about it, but definitely go and have a little look at GameStop. A funny thing I saw today, a little add-on to the end of this, is there's a Robinhood interest society, which now has over 60,000 like Twitter followers, but like the real Robinhood. The guy from the forest with the bow and arrow and stuff, because of the Robinhood app that's like sort of facilitated all of this. Everything to do with Robinhood has like blown up. So I've read an interview this morning of this like 77-year-old man who lives in Somerset who runs this like forum, and he was like, wow, people are talking to me all the time, I got all these Twitter notifications, people are really interested in Robinhood.
That
And
is
oh my
so
goodness, my heart. So lots and lots of stuff has come out of this one little Reddit thread. Interesting. I don't think we've seen the end of it either. But Nicole, you've got a platform update, haven't you, to tell us about?
Yeah, so I saw quite recently that Instagram announced that I don't know whether this is already out or it's coming out, but they're basically going to put all of their sort of insight features into one dashboard. So for business accounts or just influencers, I'm not sure, they'll basically have all of their bits and bobs in one place. I think it has sort of stats on how to track your performance, even like tips on how to grow your business and monetizing your content, all within the app itself, which is super interesting. I think Instagram's just trying to do everything at this point, and just adding on an additional feature where influencers can know so much more about their own content is just the next step, you know? I don't know what you guys think about that, or Chloe in particular. I'd love to know what you think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, Instagram is doing the most, but like not doing as I say every episode, they're not doing the one thing that people want. So it is super cool and super useful that you can kind of like learn the inner workings of Instagram from this dashboard if you're a creator or a business. But at the same time, we wouldn't need this if you just normalized your algorithm. Like it's kind of like giving you the cheat sheet to a game, kind of like what you said, Kaitlin. Like they're running the game and giving you, like, showing you how to play, but they're not making it easier. I don't know. But yeah, that's cool. I'm definitely going to jump onto it once it becomes available, if it isn't already.
I think I've actually got access to it. I was having a little look earlier before the show, and I know before you had a couple of insights that you could look at, like your most popular hour, your most popular day of the week, and you got like 7-day insights. But what I've noticed at a first glance is that there's now 30-day insights, and that's compared to like the previous 30 days. So it's like getting really into the territory of like paid for analytics tools. I wonder maybe if they're kind of making them negated. Like once Instagram comes out with a scheduling feature, it is over for a lot of businesses. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm looking forward to see how many people use that. Chloe, speaking of influencers, what has been happening this month that you want to share with us?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's really just unbelievable that influencer world hasn't ground to a halt with lockdown, but thank goodness Dubai is open, because that seems to be where all the influencers are going. For anyone that didn't catch it, there is a particular influencer called Sheridan Mordew, and she's definitely by no means the only influencer over in Dubai at the moment, but she did do an interview recently on TV where she basically said that her job was essential, and so her going on holiday to Dubai was essential work, which is quite ironic because influencers are the ones who've had it easiest during this time because they can essentially, you know, earn money and do all their work from home. Like that is one of the benefits. of being an influencer. But basically, she argued that her job is to motivate people and that this was her intention in traveling to Dubai. She said she didn't think that there was anything motivating about being stuck at home, which, you know, the quote itself kind of goes against what she is saying her intentions were. So I thought that was quite interesting. I know that there are like some influencers in the industry who are speaking up about this and kind of calling out the people that are over there. And, you know, subsequently there have been a bunch of memes about it. And the cases in Dubai have spiked significantly since this has all happened. So are you guys across it?
I don't think it's surprising that cases have risen in Dubai. I think that was fully expected. And I'm shocked, really. I think that people or influencers in this instance aren't taking accountability for their actions. Like, I have always been someone that said, like, you know, an influencer or a famous person, a celebrity, like, no, there's the whole phrase, like, oh, you signed up for this when you became that person. I don't agree with that, but I do think there's a huge element of accountability. And when you're putting your, like, face in front of a brand and swanning off to wherever you feel like it during a global pandemic whilst everyone is suffering like mentally, even physically, with coronavirus, all of that, I just think it's really really selfish. And I think people should, I mean, if you're gonna do it, like, don't do it. I don't know, there's
it's interesting. Like, would you prefer, because this was a big kind of scandal with the D'Amelios over on TikTok, right? Like, at the beginning of the pandemic, they were telling people to stay home, like, it's not hard, just stay home, save lives. But they recently went on a trip to the Maldives or somewhere like that and chose not to post about it on Instagram. So you kind of have to wonder, like, is it better that, like, they go and post about it, or would you rather they go and don't post about it? Like, the obvious choices don't go at all. Right?
Yeah,
but,
I'd rather they just didn't go.
Yeah, I mean...
But on the flip side as well, like, I also think brands should be taking an element of accountability as well and not encouraging, like, you know, speaking of creativity, for brands, they should, you know, be thinking outside of the box. How can they do their PR and marketing in a relatable way, and by, you know, selling makeup or bikinis on Dubai Beach or promoting that on Dubai Beach isn't really relatable for anyone at the moment. So there's that sort of element of it as well.
Yeah, definitely. I wonder if there have been any brands that have sort of pulled partnerships. I think I'd be surprised if there wasn't, but then again, there's this sort of like immunity that a certain kind of influencer, because look, I do feel like they're giving influencers a bad name, like some of the people that are out there, like that sort of brazen attitude about it. There's certain like kind of like low-key celebrities that I've seen in Barbados and Dubai and coming back and like not isolating, and they're just ruining it for everyone. But yeah, part of me thinks there should be brands like, okay, maybe don't be sharing our protein well 20% off discount right now, if you don't mind, if that's okay. But I do think as well, there's always been a fine line between what's aspirational and what's kind of braggy. Do you know what I mean? And I think that's a delicate line for some influencers and content creators to tread at the best of times. And I guess there's always people who are going to find it super aspirational, and other people who are going to find, like, bikini body pics, for a random example, like less aspirational, a bit more like showy offy, and like that's fine, like that's difference of opinion. But I don't know, I would be far more interested in seeing content right now, seeing how people can still be aspirational, or whatever you want to call it, like in their back garden, in their house and stuff. And I think you were right with accountability being like the buzzword, Laura, because I don't know about you guys, but I've posted pictures on social media in the last year now, let's face it, and I've felt like, oh gosh, I have to say that this was pre-lockdown, like, or you always see little disclaimers popping up in personal social media, like pre-lockdown or with social distancing, obviously, like, do you know what I mean? Those little things. But so if like average people are doing that, I don't know why influencers kind of can't as well. Cool. Well, Laura, I think you have probably my most exciting piece of news.
Yeah.
The piece I'm most excited about to share with us.
Yes. So, who remembers Bebo? Please tell me.
I
Me.
never had
No.
a Bebo account, guys. I'm so sorry. I know.
I'm shocked.
I don't think I did either.
I'm shocked.
Or I
really?
have like a vivid memory. I have like a memory where like maybe was Bebo like written in orange and it was like maybe I'm thinking of a different. I don't know, guys.
Because that was like MySpace.
No.
It was like the sort of like the kids' version of MySpace, I always
Yeah.
thought.
Oh.
It was.
I don't think it was that. I just remember signing onto this weird thing and everyone, like, it was kind of like Club Penguin, but they weren't penguins, they were people. And it was like pixels.
You're thinking of
not-
Habbo Hotel.
Maybe that's it. And I remember joining and going like, oh, I'm not sure about this. And then like, I don't know how I got here and deleted. And ever since I've thought that's what Bebo is, but I'm clearly wrong, so I will.
Sounds kind of the same.
Also, on a side note, what an elite game Club Penguin was.
Yes.
Such a good game. But yeah, so the makers of Bebo are bringing Bebo back. So basically, when it was launched in, I think it was 2005. So from memory, I was 9. But then I'm thinking maybe I wasn't 9. Maybe I was a couple of years older, and I was just a bit late to it. It was a social media platform, but it was almost like people had their own websites. So then other users could visit their page and see what they put on their page. So you might have like a bio, obviously you'd have a few selfies. And I think also it was like the thing that was so popular back in the day was its like friend list. You could only have, I think, up to 16 friends on it, so you had to be really selective about who your friends were and who you let see your profile and whose profiles you could see. But as soon as I saw the article, it's just completely nostalgic. It just brings me back to a day of like coming home from school and sitting on the computer, and you know, MSN might pop up and you'd have a little go on Bebo, and yeah. It's very nostalgic. I'm excited
Absolutely.
for it to be back.
It was so exclusive.
It was.
Like, I remember, well, it wasn't exclusive, anyone could have a page, but it was, like you say, whoever your top friends were, that was important. That was a message you were sending to the world. You could send love. Do you remember love? Like, you could share the love, but you could only do it 3 times a day. So that would be like your best friend again, and the boy you liked, just but in a friend way.
My finger slipped.
I think you could have an other half as well. I'm sure it will probably be like a bit broader, like nowadays, right? You think that there might be a bit more functionality. I'm just like craving a like social media network that isn't Facebook. I think I just want maybe something new. Chloe's sitting back like, this does not sound good. You're not getting me off Insta.
I don't know, this whole 16 friends things. First of all, I don't have 16 friends anymore.
There is that,
but
yeah, I feel that.
I can imagine like I'd be the person who'd get like knocked off the list for like the new girl, and that seems so sad. I don't know.
Yeah, you make a really good point, actually.
Yeah, like it seems a bit Mean Girls, but I'm sure in the 2021 version, like, I don't know, I can see the 16 friends thing working, but also like maybe they'd opened it up more. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, I guess we can just wait and see. I think it's in beta testing at the minute, I want to say.
Yeah.
But sorry, Laura, I'm so excited. I'm literally just like stealing your
go
segment
for
away
it.
from you. But yeah, I think it's going to be launching in the next couple of weeks. So I'll see you on Bebo, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can't wait to create some custom skins for my page.
Yes.
Very. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but that does remind me of. Did you guys ever have Pixo?
Yes.
Which I think was like. Oh,
Yeah,
me and Laura, obviously, me and Laura actually grew up in the same town, so I think this is why we were like on all the same social pages as well. But Pixo was like kind of like WordPress. It was again like your own website, and you could like put pictures as the background and have a little text box, and you could be anonymous on it, which I remember being an issue. But yeah, that was a very creative first foray into like web design and social media, I think. I don't know if that even exists. But anyway, I have another platform to discuss with you guys, which is also new-ish. Have you heard of Clubhouse?
I've heard of it, but I could not tell you what it is.
Well, no worries. So basically what it is a very, for the time being, a very exclusive online platform, which effectively it's somewhere between like Twitter, LinkedIn, and kind of like podcasts, because people, I think it's mostly in the culture industry, I'm not sure, but so people can create like rooms and spaces sort of thing, and you can host discussions. So, but to gain access to it, you have to be invited, and each person who gets invited gets 2 invites. So, I'm not gonna lie to you, I haven't been invited. Anybody listening wants to invite me, Kaitlin Kinsey on LinkedIn. But, and to be fair, like I don't really know anyone who has, but it's a really interesting concept, because everything is only available as it's happening. So it's only there when it's there, like nothing's recorded. I wonder like how that works in terms of like moderation and stuff, but in another sense I think it allows just like really organic communication. But the exciting thing about it is like Michelle Obama might open a room, Oprah Winfrey I think has a room that she hosts sometimes, and you can like join and like jump in on conversations, and or you can host one yourself if you're like, I think it would be a cool spin-off for like podcasts and stuff. Imagine we could have a little Clubhouse discussion like with exclusive invites. That would be good if only someone would invite us. But yeah, I think it's really cool. I keep seeing like a few people I follow on Twitter like constantly talking about it. I'm like, okay, invite us and then we can play along. But I think general access is going to be opening up fairly soon. I think they were trying to keep it exclusive just so they could develop it, and like work out the kinks. But what I was interested to see when I was looking this up today was that Twitter is already trying to muscle in on their action. So there's something called Twitter Spaces, and there's a Twitter thread that actually came out at the very end of December, which had a bit of like quite embarrassingly low reactions. Like some of these tweets in this thread had like 9 retweets. So for an exciting product launch is a bit like, but so that it's called Twitter Spaces. So it's a small experiment focused on the intimacy of the human voice. The human voice can bring a layer of connectivity to Twitter through emotion, nuance, empathy, often lost in text, which is like fair because, you know, you can lose it's hard to interpret the tone of a text. We can all agree with that. But yeah, so it's an experiment. They're trying to recreate like a dinner party feeling. I'm scanning, it's quite long. So they're giving spaces to a very small feedback group, and people in the group will be able to create spaces for their followers and other people on Twitter to join, and they'll have like full control over who can or cannot speak. So basically Clubhouse, but on Twitter, I think.
Ooh.
But
that's classic Twitter, like just jumping on the bandwagon at the last minute, although it seems like they're like first to the race on this one, so good for them.
Yeah, definitely. I guess it's just like an audio only version of like Facebook rooms, because I think I've never used Facebook rooms, but I think it's like their alternative to Zoom kind of, but I guess it's more accessible, maybe more people could join. I don't know, I think that one to watch, definitely. And one of the last things I want to discuss is random, but it's Bernie Sanders.
Oh my goodness.
The meme!
I've been waiting to talk about Bernie because he's everywhere. I'm so done. Like, I can't like scroll through any business page or like anything without someone like popping in the Bernie meme. I'm like, okay.
Do you know what? The thing that shocks me the most is like how creative people are and can just make like something out of nothing, and then suddenly it's everywhere and you can't escape it. I mean, that's not a bad thing because it's pretty hilarious, but like it fascinates me how creative people are.
Absolutely. I just realised I provided zero context there. I just said the name Bernie Sanders. we were
They
like,
know. The listeners know. They've seen it.
for sure. But just in case, so at Joe Biden's inauguration, Bernie Sanders was in attendance, and he came literally in like a parka jacket and like mittens, and he just sort of wasn't very dressed up, and he just was sat on a little folding chair, obviously socially distanced, and somebody took a photo, and that photo, has just blown up. People have cut him out and put him like on the Simpsons sofa, or like in their, like you say, in their brand communications, and he's just everywhere. It is, it's been entertaining, but I see where you're coming from, Chloe. Like, we've probably seen enough. I've seen businesses like making their own Bernie mittens and selling them.
See, like the kind of phrase that springs to mind is like "killed it." You know, when you're younger, and like the joke just went on a bit. And it's like, okay, let's move
Killed
on
it.
from that a little bit.
That's fair.
But there's nothing
One
else
cool
to
thing
talk
that came
about,
out of
so.
it. Yeah, well, there is true. We are running low in the world of interesting things, so we could just look at the same photo over and over again. But one cool thing that came out of it was that Bernie Sanders himself put that image on a sweatshirt and like some hats, I think. He did a whole merch line and sold it like all for charity, and he rose, I want to say upwards of $1 million, but like he rose a lot of money.
His PR team are on that. They spotted that opportunity
definitely.
and they ran with it.
It's funny, like so many people are like, oh my goodness, Bernie's like so with it, so cool, and I'm like, I am sure there is like a 25-year-old in his team all over this. Definitely. Cool. And I think we just have time for maybe one more update to a platform. Is something new come to LinkedIn, Laura, that you can tell us a little bit about?
Yes. So LinkedIn have launched their own like LinkedIn Labs, which is kind of similar to like Facebook Blueprint, which essentially it's like an online resource for marketers to refer back to. So there's loads of like courses, articles, essentially like a hub of really useful information for any marketers that do use LinkedIn, because I don't know about anyone else, like having like had quite a lot of experience on for like Facebook for advertising, going to LinkedIn, it was, although it was the same kind of in the way it looked, it wasn't quite as user friendly, and like the results are different. There's quite a lot of different elements to it. So I think this platform is like this online resource is going to be a bit of a godsend, because we didn't have that before. Everything that you sort of, or I know like I learned was sort of from like blog articles or forums, that kind of thing. So I think it's going to be sort of like a bit of a game changer, sort of having that platform, that resource to go to, and just learn more. I mean, it's an opportunity obviously to develop in that area and learn new things.
Yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you. LinkedIn has always been a bit of a mystery sometimes when it comes to advertising, and like I think the biggest difference is results, like you were saying. So things that results you would take for granted on Facebook to try and achieve on LinkedIn is like way more expensive, or like a bit of a struggle. I know they're quite good at, like, for example, Laura and I have been in a call together, haven't we? There's quite a lot of like representatives available to talk you through it, but that can be a bit of a faff, so I'm quite excited that there's a whole bank of info now.
Definitely, and I think with the whole rep thing, you have to be approached to be able to speak to a rep, as opposed to like just being able to reach out and be like, I need some help. Like, you have to be part of a database that then someone contacts you. I mean, don't get me wrong, Facebook's no easier to get in contact with. But yeah, I just think it's gonna be a game changer.
Yeah, that's a really cool little launch. We'll definitely have to check that out. Thanks, Laura. So guys, we've just got time for a super quick calendar update today with some of the key dates for the months ahead. So Chloe, have you got some upcoming holidays that you can share with us that people should be popping into their calendars?
I do, and for all the marketers out there, February is a good month for little fun national days. So here I am about to round them off for you. We've got on the 9th of February, so next week, is National Pizza Day, which there's no excuse not to get involved. So there is the excuse if you need to buy pizza. On the 12th, we've got Chinese New Year, which is a very exciting time. Then, of course, on the 14th, Valentine's Day, which is what February is most known for. On the food train, we've got National Pancake Day on the 16th, which is another one I am personally excited to get involved in. The 17th then is Random Acts of Kindness Day, which we love. And then on the 20th is Love Your Pet Day, which every day is Love Your Pet Day, but, you know.
True.
They deserve a day.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Fab. Well, I think that's all we've got time for today. Thank you so much to everyone at home for listening. This is actually going to be my last episode hosting the Draft Social Media podcast, but don't worry, you'll soon be hearing a lot more from the rest of the gals as they all take on a different episode of the pod and host it for you. So definitely something to look forward to. It's been a hoot popping into your ears every week. We've been Draft Social Media. You've been amazing. We'll see you next time.